Okay. All righty, we are recording. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I'm really glad that you're here. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to hit the view presentation. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm excited to be talking about about the pandemic. I'm not excited to be talking about a pandemic. I'm excited about being able to share with you what God has shown me on different ways to deal with this thing, because this is a challenge. So my question to you is, where is your serenity? We all struggle with peace and purpose, but where is our hope in the midst of this pandemic? We all have our own cross to bear, so to speak, no matter where you are in your circumstances. If you've got kids at home, if you've got, you're out of work, your spouse is out of work, you're maybe a independent contractor, what do you do? How are you managing this? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because it has gotten to all of us. And my question, are you ready for some peace of mind? I know that I've struggled. I've struggled to eat healthy and those kinds of things. So here's the 6 problems that I discovered, or I felt there were problems with, and maybe you can let me know what you think. But the first one is, how do you not let fear and anxiety overtake you? Whether you're thinking about, where you're going to get the money to pay the next bill, or when are you going to go back to work, or are your kids going to be going back to school this next year? How are you going to deal with it? How do you get rid of that fear and anxiety? Second thing is, how do you deal with annoying people in family? For some people, it's not family as much as all the annoying people on maybe television or in the government. Those can be the annoying people that you get annoyed with on Facebook. Sometimes it is family. When everybody is in the house by them, together, or you can't everybody go their separate ways the way you're used to doing, it can really get stressful. So how do you deal with that? The third thing is, what do you do when you've lost hope and feel that God's abandoned you? A lot of people are feeling like, where is God in this? Why has God allowed these things to happen? And how do you get back on track with that? Or if you never had a track, how do you find it? The fourth thing is, how do you cope without getting lost and fall back into those traps, I guess I would call them, or the world's way of helping us to feel better? Alcohol, drugs, food, other addictions. This is so ingrained in our society, at least in America, that the bars and the breweries were considered to be essential businesses. Have to keep that liquor coming, because what's going to happen? Yeah, people will die if they don't have their booze. It not only keeps some people mentally sane, or at least they think it does, but physically you get addicted to it and you can die if you don't have it. But that's really sad. Having the gun shops open was another thing that I found saddened me, that was an essential business. The fifth thing is, where do you turn when you're struggling to pay the bills? How do you cope with that? Yes, all of these things are anxiety provoking, but that financial piece is especially difficult. And how do we keep a positive attitude in the midst of all this when there's so much negativity? How do we stay at peace and have that serenity? Well, my name is Linda Larson Schlitz, and I'm the owner of Faucet of Hope Ministries. I live in Wausau, Wisconsin, and I've been working here for about 30 years, working in schools. I've worked a lot with the chronically mentally ill, chemically dependent people that have been homeless, ex-cons, veterans. I work with families and children. I really have the gamut of experiences And I have turned all of that into becoming a professional speaker. I'm an author as well. And I love doing life coaching for people who are hoping to get from point A to point B. I've been blessed to have been awarded the Athena and the Red Cross Hometown Hero of the Year award here in our community for my work with this population. And my books, I wrote my own story, Ditzy Blonde Faucet, It's a God Thing. I wrote another book with the children that I've worked with called All Season Front Row Ticket to the Fights, Whether You Want to Be There or Not. And my most recent book was Speak to Me, God, I'm Listening, 365 Meditations for Those Who Want to Hear God Answer Life's Toughest Questions. And this book really transformed me because I wrote it. I had to really be listening to what God was saying to me. And it was really life-changing in many ways, which is part of why this workshop has come to be as well, because I really think the foundation of all this is in trusting God. I was also blessed to get commendation from our governor and the Secretary of Workforce Development because of the work I've done. I don't say any of that to brag. I am just so blessed to have been called to do what God has called me to do. And I can tell you this right now, when you're doing what God has called you to do, created you to do, these kinds of things, they just come naturally. They just happen. You don't have to go out and work for it. It just happens. So back to the first problem, the first step, I guess, that I have for you to deal with all of those problems we spoke of would be to let go and let God. Oh, that sounds very easy, but it's not necessarily that easy. The first thing you have to do is to think about the top 4 things that are causing you anxiety and fear right now. So just think about that. And if you've got your workbooks, now's the time to grab them. We aren't going to take all the time to write all this stuff down right now, because this is why it's a workshop and why I sent it out one at a time, one day at a time, so people would have a chance to really think about these things and do each worksheet one at a time. But that would be the first thing. What is causing you fear and anxiety right now? Is it paying the bills? Is it getting this coronavirus? Is it having somebody that you love get the coronavirus? What is it? We've really got to think about what causes us fear and anxiety. And then the second thing is, for each of those 4 things above, how much control do you have over them? Okay, whether I get COVID-19, how much control do I have over that? A lot more than some people seem to believe. I can choose to self-isolate. Then I don't need to worry about it, because if I'm not going out in public and exposing myself to people who may have it, I don't have to worry about getting it, unless I have other people in my family who are going out and about, which is the case in my house. So yeah, there is still that concern, but do I need to worry about it? I can take control over what I can take control of. Other things, I can't take control of them. You know, if they're going to come in with the mailman. So figure out, what do you have control over? What can you do something about personally? And what can't you? So that's the next thing. Third thing, think about how this anxiety and fear is impacting you. Where do you feel it? Stress causes all kinds of symptoms, and it lowers your immunity. So you don't want to be stressed out all the time. So try and figure out, where is it causing you problems? Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you having more stomach problems? Are you getting more headaches? Are you exhausted all the time? These are ways that stress and anxiety cause problems. It is a flight or fight response to some extent, and our body does whatever it can to go, oh my gosh, we got a problem here. So you've got to figure that out. Where is this stress impacting you? And how are you then coping with that anxiety? Because if we are coping with eating a bunch of junk food, sugar, drinking, doing drugs, whatever it might be, those things are not helping the problem. They're just making the problem worse. So we've got to look at, how are we coping? Are we doing things that are going to help ease the anxiety by thinking differently or not? Many people find comfort in their faith. Where are you at on a scale of faith, a 1 to 5? And on the worksheet, you've actually got some scales to be looking at, I think. So where are you at with your faith? Do you believe God's in this whole thing? And when you're looking at all of that, you got to look at, what are you grateful for? In spite of the situation as it is right now, if we don't come back every single day to looking at what can we be grateful for, we're going to be upset. There's going to be plenty of things to stress us out. Gratitude has got, the attitude of gratitude's got to be the foundation of how we get from day to day if we're going to maintain our mental stability. So what can you do today? I have today written twice there. Today, that will make your day better, or night, whatever it may be when you're working on this. What can you do today that will make your life better or make your day better? And thinking differently is the main key. So, second thing, don't sweat the annoying stuff. Okay, we've heard don't sweat the small stuff. I couldn't write that down. That would have been stealing somebody's something. But don't sweat the annoying stuff either, because there's a lot of annoying stuff out there. First thing we have to do, though, is to identify who the people are in your life that are causing you the annoyances. Who is bugging you? What can you control? Control what you can. Somebody said something the other day, this was good. If you can't change the people you're around, change the people you're around. Well, that's all fine and good if we're talking about friends, but if you're talking about family, well, you really can't necessarily do that, not with your children, but control what you can in your environment. Third thing, do unto others what you would want them to do. That, what would Jesus do? WWJD, remember everybody had those bracelets? That's the golden rule. Luke 6:31. It means in your daily life, every day, what would Jesus do? If we are thinking about our situation, how would he handle this? If he was stressed out, if he was facing this, how would he handle it? What would he do? Would he go and, just pig out? I don't know, but let's ask him and find out. So dump the things that aren't working. That's really important. Dump what isn't working. So if getting stressed out about that person that is posting that stuff on Facebook that's making you crazy, then dump it. Unfriend them, whatever you need, block them. Don't read it. We've got lots of choices. But if we respond to the people that annoy us the most, on Facebook's a good example. The more you respond, the more of their stuff you're going to see. So if you don't want to see that stuff, don't respond to that stuff. Dump what isn't working. 5, look for the good. Philippians 4:13. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy, think about these things. Now, if we just made that list of things that was pure and right and noble and good and lovely and admirable and excellent and praiseworthy, if we did that, we got up and we made that list and that's all we looked at, we would not have a lot of opportunity to be annoyed because we'd be looking. So even the most annoying people, if we can look at whatever's good and admirable, there's something in that person that is good and admirable. We got to focus on those things. And you know what? That person may be you. You may be harder on the things that annoy you the most may be yourself. and the things you do yourself. So you got to cut yourself some slack and change your thinking about yourself as well. Practice what you have learned from those you look up to. So if there are people in your life that you would like to be like, or that have qualities you admire, then learn from them and take their coaching, take their advice, and do what they're saying. But don't try and do it alone, because we just aren't meant to do it alone. We aren't equipped to do it alone. We have God on our side to encourage and strengthen us. But you know what? Even in that relationship, that's why God created the church. That's why he created fellowships. That's why he created the body of Christ, with each of us being separate with different talents, gifts, and abilities, so that we could all fit together. We need each other. We can't function without each other. So don't try and do this thing alone. The third thing, remember where you came from. Where did you come from? Or have you ever felt like God has somehow abandoned you and others? So think about that. Have you ever felt God abandoned you? Or maybe abandoned others? If so, how? Where was God? We've had those. I think we've all had those feelings. God, where are you? Why didn't you do something? I prayed, you didn't answer. So let's just be honest. We've had those feelings. And if we've had those feelings, let's look back a little bit. Think back on other difficult times in our life. How did we get through it? A lot of people are feeling right now that God has abandoned our nation, our world, that we're all, this is it, end times. But people have been through a lot of stuff for a lot of years, for like ever. There's been floods and all kinds of things that have happened over the years. So what have we been through? What have you been through that God got you through? How did you get through it? Did you ever ask God to help you? And I think that even atheists in their most difficult moments cry out to God. God, if you're there. I don't believe, they didn't believe in you the whole time they were alive, but now when they're facing death, God, if you're there, if you're real, do something, speak to me. How did we survive? Now we got to also keep in mind that how we would like God to answer may not be how he is answering, and there's a reason for why he's not answering us the way. So he may not have abandoned us at all. He just may have allowed us to go through something for a purpose so that we could learn. Have you ever heard yourself say to someone, or maybe someone said to you, you are such a godsend? I know I've had it said to me many times. I've said it to many people as well. You're a godsend. Well, write down the people that have been there for you, that have been there, that you feel are godsends in your life. And then write down a list of all the people that you can think of that have said that about you. And you need to put that list down, because our list gets very unbalanced sometimes. We're, like I said, really hard on ourselves, but these are important lists, because what this is going to show is that God has been there for you through others, and he's used you to be there for others. Back to the we need each other, and that's a really important foundation of all this. This is what you need to come to understand. Or think about, do you believe that you're on this earth for a reason? Did it ever occur to you that God has sent others to help you? What if God inspired legislators to offer a stimulus check and unemployment benefits? What if that was God providing? What if God is working in and through every single person in your life to reach you? Can you think of some things that God may have done for you during this pandemic? Like maybe this workshop was created just for you. Since, maybe nobody else came on that day, you're the only one that came, or you're the only one that really laid hold of this. Maybe it was just for you. You just never know. You just never know. But people need you. So list all the people that are depending on you right now to make it through this. God is at work in you. We can do this together. This coronavirus thing, it's not fun. It's not easy having the kids at home and work. Everything's all messed up, but we can do it together. And that's how it's intended to be. So when you're doing what you're created to do, you become a faucet of hope, offering help, opportunity, praise, and encouragement to others. So don't ever forget that. God made you for that reason, and people need you to be that for them. Fourth thing, play it to the end. What do I mean by that? Playing it to the end is you've got a scenario that a drink would just make it a little bit better. Or maybe if I just went out and did this one thing. Play that scenario to the end. Maybe it's going to a big event with a lot of other people that aren't wearing masks. Play it to the end. What's the worst case scenario? Do you have any control over that? And I think there's some good advice out there. If you act like everyone out there, including yourself, has COVID, how are you going to play that to the end? Are you going to wear a mask then? If you have it and you could be giving it to every other single person that you come in contact with, would you wear a mask? Because you don't know if you have it. None of us do, unless we've been tested, of course, and that's a whole nother thing. And I'm not trying to freak anybody out here. I'm just saying, play it to the end. Whatever decisions we make, play it to the end. If I think a drink is going to make it better, is it really going to make it better for me as an alcoholic? Because one drink is not enough, and what is it? One's too many, and 1,000's never enough. That's usually what they say. Because once an alcoholic starts drinking, they don't stop generally, and then it's not a good thing. So you got to play it to the end. And again, don't try and do it alone. You probably see this on every single one of these steps. Don't try and do it alone because it's difficult. Remember the positive behaviors that make you feel good. When I am eating healthy and exercising, I feel great. I can accomplish things. I don't feel sluggish. I'm not tired all the time. It makes a huge difference if I eat healthy and exercise. Why am I not doing that when I get up in the morning? I don't play it to the end enough. So remember the positive behaviors and how good they made you feel before you make a decision to step in and do something that you know is not going to help. So get the help that you need now. Don't wait. Don't just spiral down into a depression where things get worse and worse. Get the help you need now. I'm offering you some help. So if you want the help, I'm here to help you and get on the right track. And there are so many online groups that can offer support. You just have to take the time to accept it from the people that are willing to offer it. And sometimes we just don't want to ask for the help. Consider the lilies, number 5. Consider the lilies. The lilies of the field, it says, they don't sow and neither do they reap, but even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed as one of these. That's a Bible verse that has always stuck with me, and a friend of mine wrote a song about it. But when we're looking at, being afraid of losing your house, for example, or where you're living, are you homeless right now? And there may be some people that have an opportunity to watch this that are homeless. And I am really sorry about that. For those of us who are blessed enough to be somewhere, count your blessings. Are you hungry? Most of us are not hungry. If we're hungry, most of us have the opportunity to go in the kitchen and get something to eat. There may not be a whole lot of food, but boy, when I was a single mom, I'll tell you what, we ate a lot of macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles, and lots of us have been through that. But we become a pretty spoiled society. We want what we want when we want it. And Jesus said he didn't have a roof over his head or shoes on his feet. And what he did was ask for people to help him, and they did. The believers, and this is where Christians come in, are to be helping. And I think a lot of us are helping in whatever ways we can. But the hunger thing, if somebody came knocking on your door, would you give them a piece of bread? So that's one of the questions. Are we hungry? I don't see too many people running around naked. There are so many clothes in this nation, at least in the United States. There is nobody that should be running around naked for any reason ever. And there really shouldn't be people going hungry these days. There's plenty of food. We just need to get the food to the people that need it. Want versus need. I remember when we were running our group home, the guys were complaining because they weren't getting enough food, and we were talking to a person from social services who dealt with group homes. She said, hey, doesn't say that you have to give them steak. It doesn't even say you have to give them bread with a hot dog. You have to have a certain criteria, but you don't have to have as much as you think that you may want. You don't have to provide ketchup with the hot dog. So it's things like that, our wants versus our needs. What do we need versus what do we want? There was a time where we did not have cell phones. I cannot imagine the day prior to cell phones, or we had the thing on the wall, ring, 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 not even a dialer. It was on the wall. Those were the days, but man, it was awful getting lost or going to a store and you forgot something and you weren't able to give the person a call back and say, hey, don't forget to pick this up for me. And I've done that. It's very frustrating. But I'm glad we have cell phones. And I just lost my place here now. So what we need versus what we want becomes a real challenge as well, to try to figure that out and determine that for ourselves, because we may not want to look at the differences, the needs versus the wants. Okay, I got to get back to the right page. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So back to the lilies. We're not homeless, most of us. Most of us aren't hungry or naked. What do we want versus what do we need? And what can we do to make money and recreate ourselves? A lot of times we have got ourselves in a box as to how we're going to make money and how we're going to survive. And we got to be more creative. Can we use the talents and the gifts and the abilities that we have to earn a living? Well, you may not know how to do that yourself, but there's somebody that can help you. So are you asking that person? Are you reaching out to find out? If not, why not? So let's get that figured out. Spiritual mindfulness is number 6, an attitude of gratitude. This is a real key. Philippians says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Wow, that's a huge mouthful, but it is really, it's a great thing to stand on. Spiritual mindfulness is a matter of taking captive our own thoughts. So what thoughts do you have that have become bad and that have ended in negative behaviors? Because that's where addiction comes from. I have a cat that is now up here that I thought was going to lay quietly. What are those thoughts that end in negative behaviors? And that's what happens. We look for self-gratification, quick self-gratification, and we can't seem to get through those difficult times. So what are those negative thoughts? And what other things can we think about that will help us to feel better? Because our thoughts cause our feelings, and then our feelings cause our behaviors. So what can we think about differently? And as you go back to the other slides, think about whatever is good, whatever is positive, what has God brought you through, what things do you feel good about, what do you love, what you like about yourself, about what God has gifted you with. If you don't know, you need to start asking the people that appreciate you. So those are just some things to think about. What positive tools do you have that can help you change your thinking? Maybe it's music, or reading the Bible, or having some good books. Support groups are great. Going to church, but yes, that's difficult right now. Talking to your friends, family, counselor, doing fun things, making stuff, being creative. There is a list, and if you've signed up for all of my things and you've downloaded my handbook, I gave you 100 different tools of things to do, different places you can go, things you can do to help get out of that negative mindset. Because spiritual mindfulness is about keeping our hearts and minds on Christ. That's the key to this whole situation, is keeping our hearts and minds on the God who created us, because he's not going to let us, he's got our backs. You know, one thing I encourage people to do, and this is kind of morbid, not because we're talking about COVID, but what do you want your headstone to say? Think about writing your own obituary, or what do you want on your headstone? Why is that important? Because we usually want that to say, what difference would you like to make in the lives of others? Our time is short. As you've watched people get this disease and die within days, what difference do you want to make in the lives of others? Because you better be doing it today and not wait till all of this is done and then you're going to start doing what God's called you to do. You need to be doing it now and not get sidetracked by it. What legacy do you want to leave for your children or for your friends or your family? What do you want to if you could give them anything, what would it be? Well, if it's money, then you better figure out how to start making some. If it's faith, then you need to start giving them some. You need to start having it and sharing it and living it. So what do we want to live? How can you be an inspiration right now in the midst of a pandemic to help other people not spiral down into a suicidal mess, but how can you be that faucet of hope to get them from point A to point B, whatever that might be? Maybe it's just a listening ear today. Maybe it's saying, you know what, I see this, this, and this in you that is really good. You've got that going for you. Build on that. Maybe it's connecting them up with me. Maybe it's connecting them up with someone else. But you have what God needs to use. God is waiting to use you in this pandemic to change lives, to help people, to save lives, because what goes around comes around. And if we can reach out and help someone else, they're going to reach out and help someone else. And that's how every good thing happens, is when good people do good things to help other people feel good. That's how it all transpires. So what help do you need to make it happen? And that's something you got to think about. All of these things, I'm just flipping through here quickly, but all of these things are things you need to really take some time and think about. What help do you need to make your dreams come true, your passion go into play, and do what God has called you to do? What help do you need, and who do you need it from? I'm someone who needs a coach that is kind of hard on me a little bit, and maybe kind of can kick me a little bit and just hold me accountable. Those are important. So those are some things that you want to think about. So for coming to this, you get a free strategy session, a coaching package. I'll be happy to work with you on figuring this out and getting you to figure out what at least you need to do to get to the next step. For those who are going to jump into a bigger package type thing, there's a special discount of 33% for being a part of this. So thank you for showing up. For being at this workshop, you also have access to my daily meditations for 30 days. But you can get them every day of the year if you buy or have any of my books. So if you've already got one of my books, hey, I'm going to send it to you anyway. So if you aren't getting my daily meditations and you want them every day, let me know and I will sign you back up to get them. So you can get my daily meditations every single day. And the Kindle version is still only $1.99 for a limited time if you want the Kindle version. That's kind of cool to have that with. You can join my upcoming events. Some of them are free, some not. Some go with coaching packages. So you can always keep track of my stuff on my events page. You can just go to events. I've also just started a podcast and I've had some great guests on there. So just go to my homepage on my LindaLarsonSchlitz.com and you can see my other things that I'm doing there. And I really hope that you will take part and you will join me in those things. I would love to spend time working with you and helping you in whatever way I can. So I'm really glad you stopped in. And if there are any questions now, I am going to turn off this and get my people back up here and see what kind of questions we might have. Hold on a second.